did have those conversations of like, am I the same guy? I saw you say that in another interview. What was that like to just like try to honestly ask yourself, like, am I still that guy?
I'm always honest with myself, always. So I will always have the questions and I'll just brush them off. And like the same with that, I was brushing it off. But you got to remember, yeah, I'm coming off 2 losses, but that's the longest break I've ever had. Yeah, like, so that's what we thought it was going to be. I did the face-off. So originally, early, that's what I wanted. And then it got to a point where I didn't know what was happening.
Alexander Volkanovski admits he questions whether he can flip the switch ahead of his high-stakes UFC 314 comeback fight against Diego Lopes.
There was questions. Am I going to be able to flip the switch? Am I going to be the same guy once I flip that switch?
Alexander Volkanovski is preparing for a pivotal moment in his career as he gears up for UFC 314, where he will face Diego Lopes for the vacant featherweight title. The former champion, once considered one of the most dominant fighters in the division's history, now finds himself in unfamiliar territory, with 3 losses in his last 4 fights, including 2 against lightweight champion Islam Makhachev and a knockout defeat to Ilia Topuria. Questions have emerged about whether he can regain the form that made him a feared title holder. Volkanovski's confidence remains intact, but he has admitted to wrestling with doubts during his time away from the octagon.
For once in my life, or for once in my career, had my training schedule and fighting second, like around my life, right? So I trained around everything else. First time I've ever done that for 15 years. So that was different for me. I'm not used to that.
His return to the title picture was almost inevitable when Topuria vacated the belt to move up a weight class. Without a chance to avenge his loss in a rematch, Volkanovski now sees this fight as an opportunity to prove that he still belongs among the elite at featherweight. He has acknowledged that the past year has brought moments of uncertainty, questioning whether he could still summon the same intensity that once made him great. However, he has found reassurance in the gym, where an early training camp has helped him rediscover his form.
Early, like as we started camp nice and early, that we would. So I'm, we're kicking ass in the gym right now. The weights, we're ahead of schedule, and we've still got plenty of time. So we're just going to keep going.
Despite the setbacks, he remains focused on showing that his recent losses do not define the fighter he is today. He has expressed his determination to demonstrate that he can still compete with and defeat the new wave of featherweight contenders. Lopes, a rising star with considerable momentum, represents the perfect test for Volkanovski to prove that he is still a championship caliber fighter. The challenge is a significant one, but the former champion welcomes it as an essential part of his comeback story.
Have you lost it? Like, what's going on here? You mustn't want it anymore. I was like, no, not really, because I remember I've accepted that I'm having the break. All right, have you accepted that you're done? I was like, no, I haven't. I'll be back. All right, I'll flip the switch. Will you flip the switch? Like them, you will ask yourself these questions, but I would always answer myself, go, relax. When the time comes, you'll flip the switch. Don't worry.
The significance of this fight extends beyond simply reclaiming the title. If Volkanovski can defeat Lopes and regain the championship, he will become only the 2nd fighter in UFC history to hold the featherweight belt twice, joining the legendary Jose Aldo. Beyond that, he has the opportunity to surpass Aldo's record for the most featherweight title fight victories. With 6 wins in UFC title fights, he sits just 2 behind Aldo's record of 8. If he can reclaim the belt and successfully defend it multiple times, he could cement himself as the most accomplished featherweight in the promotion's history.
Yeah, first option probably would have been the rematch against Ilya, get that win back for the belt. If not, him vacating and I fight Lopes, you know what I mean? Or, because I thought interim was going to maybe be an option.
Yeah.
It's even one up from that. I'm fighting for the actual title against a young, hungry guy. I wanted to, I want to get that win back, but I also want to prove that I can beat this new school.
Yeah.
And I want to do that with Ilya. He's gone, but I can still do that with the new school. I can still, part of my comeback story is still that I can take out this new school. I still got these guys, trust me.
While discussions about legacy and records are compelling, Volkanovski's primary concern remains proving to himself and the world that he is still one of the best. He recognizes that doubts are natural, especially after suffering consecutive knockout defeats, but he remains confident that he can return to his peak. His preparation for UFC 314 has reaffirmed that belief, as he has felt sharp in training and ahead of schedule in terms of weight management.
But I could have done better with my nutrition. I decided to do that this time, like 14 weeks out from the fight. And yeah, no cheat meals, not even a cheat meal. And everyone knows I love my food. not even a cheat meal, because I'm like, I want to bring that weight down. I want to be moving fast. I want to feel sharp, I want to feel like me. I don't want to wait till 2 weeks out from the fight and be like, all right, yeah, I feel sharp again, but I had this whole camp of me moving around like a slob. I didn't want that.
Volkanovski remains unfazed by Diego Lopes' rapid rise, maintaining full confidence in his ability to outclass his Brazilian opponent in every aspect of the fight. While Lopes is widely recognized for his dangerous submission skills, Volkanovski sees no reason to avoid grappling exchanges. In fact, he believes he can assert dominance in both wrestling and grappling should the fight go to the ground. He expects Lopes to realize quickly that he is up against someone who won't be easily controlled or intimidated. Volkanovski is convinced that his relentless pressure will eventually wear Lopes down, leading to frustration and discomfort as the fight progresses.
Look, I'm planning on going out there and looking good, Going out there and doing my thing and I'm bringing that belt back home. I'm very, very confident of that. And after that, I think that just sets up for an even bigger fight. Whether that is still at featherweight or it's at I don't know. We could still maybe make that happen, but.
With a career built on overcoming tough opponents, Volkanovski is no stranger to high-level competition. Though his loss to Ilia Topuria at UFC 298 gave critics ammunition, it has only fueled his determination to reclaim his place atop the featherweight division. His experience and well-rounded skill set give him confidence that he has everything needed to dispatch Lopes and re-establish himself as the division's top contender. In preparation for the fight, Volkanovski has been sharpening all aspects of his game, fully aware of Lopes' versatility. He is comfortable striking with Lopes, but is equally confident in his ability to dictate the fight in the clinch or on the ground. His adaptability and resilience remain key weapons, and he prides himself on his ability to fight through adversity. No matter how the fight unfolds, he believes his mental toughness will carry him through any challenge Lopes presents.
Everyone's going to change their tone after this one, I guarantee you. And everyone has every right. I'm coming off 2 losses. I'm 36, almost I'll be 37 at the end of the year. So a lot of people are going to be like, he's done, he's dusted. And they have every right to think that until I change their mind. So that's what I plan on doing in April.
Plan on defending ASAP, and you're going to see that active champ you guys remember, and I'll get a free in this year. So you will quickly be reminded of what the featherweight division's like.
The matchup has sparked debate within the MMA community, with some questioning why Lopes received the title shot over Movsar Evloev, who many believe was the rightful next challenger. Evloev, who remains undefeated and holds a recent victory over Lopes, expressed his disappointment at being overlooked. He acknowledged the UFC's tendency to prioritize entertainment value, noting that highlight reel finishes and trash talk often influence matchmaking more than pure merit. Despite feeling passed over, Evloev understands the current landscape of the sport. Movsar said, "No, but people who are rooting for the sport, they were waiting for me as a contender for the title. But now it's a little bit of a different time because people need more trash, talk, dirty stuff, some finishes. Even if you lose 10 times but you have finishes, you have more of a chance to get a title shot." However, Ilia Topuria appeared to dismiss both Volkanovski and Lopes by referring to them as his children. Rather than making any bold predictions, Topuria suggested that the future for both fighters remains uncertain. He wished them well, but made it clear that he sees himself as the one truly in control of the weight class.
Volkanovski y Diego Lopes. ¿Te atreves a darme una predicción rápida de ese cinturón vacante que has dejado libre?
No sé, predecir el futuro de nuestros hijos es complicado, pero no sé. Le deseo suerte a los dos, pero vamos, todo el mundo sabe quién manda en esa división. Simplemente les he dejado un juguete para que se diviertan, porque para ellos es importante. Para mí, a mí no me hace falta ningún cinturón.
But Diego Lopes had good words for Topuria. He believes that Topuria is a great fighter and his move up to 155 could be good for him. Lopes himself said that he might move up to 155 in the future and could Topuria in the lightweight division.
É um cara que pode conseguir grandes coisas dentro da categoria, é um cara bastante atlético, é um cara bastante jovem também, acho que tem 27, 28 anos, então acho que ele tem tempo ainda para fazer uma boa carreira na categoria de cima.
Você acha que ele volta um dia pro MMA, caso ele chegue lá e não renda tanto assim?
Pois se ele volta, espero ser o campeão e poder lutar com ele.
Imagina um futuro você lutando de 70, ou é muito grande, ou até descer para 61 seria mais possível?
Cara, eu já tenho conversado com o meu nutriólogo, ele tem falado pra mim, você pode estar na categoria que você quiser, já seja 61, você tem o peso pra lutar de 61, tem o peso pra lutar de 66, e também pode subir um pouco de peso pra lutar, tem a estatura e a altura pra lutar de 155 também, mas por agora, enfoque na sua categoria, e já depois a gente vê o que o futuro depara pra você. Então agora eu tô focado na categoria, talvez no futuro possa subir, não sem nenhum problema, fazer umas boas lutas aí no 155.
Moreover, Aljamain Sterling expects a dominant performance from Alexander Volkanovski, predicting a one-sided fight in favor of the Australian. He believes Volkanovski's well-rounded skill set and superior conditioning will allow him to control the bout, especially against Diego Lopes' aggressive but potentially reckless style. Sterling sees Lopes' tendency to go all in early as a major weakness, arguing that if he fails to do significant damage in the opening rounds, he'll struggle to keep up with Volkanovski's relentless pace. With Volkanovski's strong grappling and intelligent striking, Sterling anticipates that the fight will shift decisively in his favor as the rounds progress.
He is in phenomenal shape. What he does great versus what Diego Lopes does great is not the same. Volk is super well-rounded. He's strong in every single department. Maybe not a submission specialist, but he's very hip to the grappling game, where Diego Lopes is a very good grappler in terms of submission threats. But when it comes to striking, he is an all-or-nothing guy in the first round. There's no pacing for Diego Lopes.
Meanwhile, Kenny Florian offered a more cautious perspective, considering the different ways Volkanovski might approach the fight. He questioned whether the former champion would fight more conservatively after recent knockout losses, or if he'd take an aggressive approach. While acknowledging Volkanovski's grappling as a key advantage, Florian pointed out the danger posed by Lopes' early pressure. He suggested that if Volkanovski can weather the initial storm, he will likely take control in the later rounds. However, he also warned that engaging in a firefight with Lopes could be risky, as the Brazilian will be looking to land a fight-ending shot from the opening bell to the final moment. He said Lopes going to go out there, and he's going to try to find that chin of Volkanovski's early and often until that final bell. If he tries to knock Lopes out and really counter him, that could be extremely dangerous. Coming to the co-main event of UFC 314, Paddy Pimblett remains unconvinced that a victory over Michael Chandler will change how he is perceived by the broader MMA community. Despite his undefeated run in the UFC and his steady climb in the lightweight division, he believes his critics will continue to downplay his accomplishments. With just a slim margin separating their fan predictions on Topology, Chandler is set to be the biggest test of Pimblett's career. However, Pimblett expects that even if he secures a dominant win, the narrative will once again shift in a way that diminishes his achievement. Reflecting on his most recent fight, a first-round submission win over Bobby Green, Pimblett recalled how many had doubted his ability to stand and trade with an experienced striker. Before the fight, he said the widespread opinion was that Green would knock him out. Yet after Pimblett finished Green, those same voices dismissed the victory by pointing to Green's age, claiming that he was past his prime. He said, "No, everyone underestimates me, lad. Like before the Bobby Green fight, it was, Bobby's going to knock him out. He won't be able to stand with him on the feet. And when I beat him, it was like, well, Bobby's 38 years old. Bobby's old. He's finished. He only fights people who are old and finished. And it's going to be the same when I beat Chandler." Pimblett anticipates a similar response if he defeats Chandler, predicting that skeptics will highlight Chandler's UFC record and age, rather than giving him credit for beating a former title challenger. Despite being unbeaten in the UFC with 6 victories, including a mix of knockouts, submissions, and decisions, he feels that no matter what he accomplishes, the goalpost will always be moved. He further said, "I'm going to beat Chandler, and everyone's gonna say, well, he was 2-4 in the UFC. He hasn't beaten anyone. He's like 38. I'm 38, used to it, lad. It's been happening since I was 16. I've been fighting since I was 16, and people just change the goalpost when I win, so I'm not." The upcoming matchup has also drawn reactions from fellow fighters, including lightweight contender Jai Herbert. Ahead of his own return at UFC London, Herbert spoke about training with Pimblett at Next Generation MMA. Having spent time sparring with Pimblett and other high-level lightweights in Liverpool, Herbert described the fight against Chandler as a crucial moment in both men's careers. He sees it as a crossroads fight, where Pimblett is entering the top 15 while Chandler, with all his experience, faces a critical moment to prove he's still a contender. Regardless of the outcome, Herbert expects the bout to be an entertaining and action-packed showdown.
It's a good fight. It's a crossroads fight. You know, you got Paddy you know, he just got in the top 15 and that, and he's a young lad, and he's up against Chandler. You know, he's very experienced in that, and it's cross-force fight, so it's going to be a good entertaining fight, man. Looking forward to watching that.
However, not everyone in the lightweight division shares that enthusiasm. Arman Tsarukyan, currently ranked as the division's #1 contender, dismissed the fight as mere hype. He made it clear that neither Pimblett nor Chandler is on his radar, claiming he only pays attention to top-tier contenders. Having missed out on a title shot at UFC 311 due to a last-minute withdrawal, Tsarukyan has been vocal about his frustration with the division's current state. He believes that instead of Chandler versus Pimblett, the focus should be on legitimate contenders fighting for a shot at the belt.
Paddy Pimblett against Michael Chandler. That's the next UFC pay-per-view fight. You got Chandler, you got Paddy in that one.
I don't know. They're both not good, so I don't follow them. So it's like 50-50 fight. It's just hype fight. They're not like I don't watch their fights because they're not on my level.
You only watch fights that are on your level.
Sure, yeah, it's a top 5 fighters or real contenders fighter.
Meanwhile, veteran lightweight Beneil Dariush sees the Pimblett-Chandler fight from a different perspective. Unlike Tsarukyan, who dismisses the bout entirely, Dariush believes Chandler is the perfect opponent for Pimblett to break into the elite ranks of the lightweight division. Acknowledging Chandler's recent struggles, Dariush pointed out that Chandler is currently 2-4 in the UFC and appears to be on a downward trajectory. He argued that this makes the timing ideal for Pimblett to face him, as a win would solidify his status as a legitimate contender. He said, "I think for Paddy, it's perfect. You could be a fan of Chandler, whatever. You have to admit he's 2-4 in the UFC. Just being honest, I don't think he's on his way to the top. He's on a downward slope, so it's a perfect time for Paddy to kind of meet him there, and I think Paddy has a very good chance of beating him." Dariush also expressed surprise at Chandler's recent performances, particularly his loss to Charles Oliveira at UFC 309. In that fight, Chandler was taken down 5 times and controlled for nearly 15 minutes, something Dariush hadn't expected. Given Chandler's background in wrestling, he had assumed that Oliveira would struggle to take him down repeatedly. However, the fact that Chandler was dominated on the ground suggested to Dariush that his wrestling has declined. He further added, Charles was able to get a lot of takedowns on Chandler, which, I'm being honest with you, I didn't think that was gonna happen. I thought maybe 1 or 2 takedowns, but to be able to take him down every round, that was very surprising to me. So I think Paddy has a great chance. I think the fight will play out a lot standing, but if Paddy gauges in the grappling, he'll actually have lots of success. This observation led him to believe that Pimblett could have a significant advantage if he engages in grappling exchanges. While he expects much of the fight to play out on the feet, he sees Pimblett's ground game as a key factor that could tilt the fight in his favor. As fighters age, it becomes harder to maintain that level of training, which could explain why Chandler has leaned more towards striking heavy game plans in his recent fights. Dariush believes this presents a significant opportunity for Pimblett, especially if he can force Chandler into prolonged grappling exchanges. Dariush concluded, for whatever reason, Chandler is wrestling less than he used to, and wrestling isn't like striking where you could just hit some mitts and be back in shape for it. Wrestling, you gotta drill, and it's ugly and it's hard. As you get older, it becomes harder and harder to do that. He's not wrestling as much, and that gives a really big opportunity for Paddy to win that fight. So what are your thoughts about this fight? Do let us know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and check out some of our other videos on the screen right now.